Good evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Andrew Laidley. The governing Jamaica Labour Party and the opposition People's National Party convened the first in a series of Vale Royal talks at the University of the West Indies Regional Office today. The meeting, which is part of a collaborative and constructive dialogue between the government and opposition, focused on a number of important national issues. A media release from Jamaica House of a joint statement said the leaders held frank and in-depth discussions on national security, crime, violence, and public safety, as well as discussions on important legislation proposed by the government. The discussions included crime and national security, parliamentary procedures and committees, and voter re-verification. The release said Prime Minister Holness and opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips found common ground on several important issues of national development and pledged to continue discussions to arrive at unified conclusions on the way forward. Particularly, it was agreed that several draft policies and bills would be shared for future discussions. Both sides also agreed that the Electoral Commission of Jamaica would provide a plan within a month on how to ensure the maintenance of a clean voters list. There was also a decision to consider the inclusion of private sector, church, and civil society groups periodically to participate in the dialogue on crime, violence, and public order. The media release ended by saying both leaders spoke of the importance of ensuring the positive framework established through the Vale Royal talks is preserved and encouraged. Parliament resumed debate on the International Business Companies Bill yesterday. The bill is expected to create jobs, attract international businesses and investors, and boost Jamaica's standing in the international business arena. But before the bill could be passed, opposition spokesperson on industry, investment, and competitiveness, Peter Bunting, questioned whether it was the final step under the Jamaica International Financial Services Authority, JIFSA, to support international businesses and financial activities. Jamila Maitland reports.
The International Business Companies Bill has been described as a key component in the suite of legislation which supports international business and financial activities in Jamaica. The aim is to attract more international companies to be incorporated in Jamaica, with some being allowed to actually set up shops in some cases. But before there could be a vote on the bill, the opposition had some questions. First up, opposition spokesman on industry, investment and competitiveness, Peter Bunting. He wanted to know what else would be needed to get investors rolling in.
Is this the remaining key component in the suite of legislation which is required to support the regime under the Jamaica International Financial Services Authority? And well, I'll use GIFSA for short. And if it is not, could you explain what remains?
There was disappointment all around from the opposition benches, especially from opposition spokesperson on finance, Mark Golding, who drafted the bill when the PMP was in power. He said some persons may find loopholes in the exceptions outlined in the bill.
Instead of being written in the Act, should be in a schedule which can be amended by order subject to affirmative resolution. Why? Because this could impact the fiscal base of the country if we get this wrong. And if people start to use loopholes to incorporate IBCs here, take advantage of the beneficial tax regime, which we haven't heard the full details of, but which we're pretty sure will be lower rates than apply to domestic companies, but are still doing some kind of domestic business. So I suggest that you consider having subsection 6, that list put in a schedule which can be fixed quickly if you need to fix it.
However, some support came from opposition Member of Parliament Anthony Hilton, who said the bill facilitates a shift in Jamaica's labour market to providing more services.
There is an opportunity for our professionals to provide service because Jamaica had the depth and the training, the manpower, the skilled labour force to service these international and offshore bodies.
Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation with responsibility for investment, Darrell Vaz, is expected to give the closing remarks on the bill before it is voted on. For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
And for the first time, court statistics are being made available to the public. The reports, which were published on the Supreme Court's website recently, showed stats on all the courts across Jamaica. It includes the number of cases in the courts, the length of time it takes for matters to be completed in the various courts, as well as caseloads and disposal rates. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck shared the findings in Parliament yesterday. Here's more.
The report revealed that there were over 12,000 new cases in the Supreme Court and over 32,000 in the parish courts across the island. On average, the disposal or clearance rate of cases is 50%, with the gun court having the highest rate of almost 100% of all its cases being resolved.
The major finding of the study, Mr. Speaker, was that on average, the disposal or clearance rate of cases is 49.7%. This rate ranges from 24% in the High Court and 97% in the Gun Court. Mr. Speaker, there are matters across the divisions that were disposed of in less than 6 months. However, on average, it takes 2 years and 1 month, that is 25 months, for a case to be concluded.
The report highlighted that 30% of cases are adjourned because of missing files, outstanding documents, or other administrative delays, which prolong cases and causes backlog.
The number of adjournments in the Home Circuit and High Court civil divisions is a major cause of concern. 30% of these adjournments are owing to missing files, non-attendance of parties, issues with service, wrong listings, and outstanding documents. These, Mr. Speaker, contribute to the non-productive use of judicial time and slow rates of case disposal.
Minister Chuck says the report allows Jamaica to identify the issues with the courts and propose solutions.
These statistical reports have placed us in a position to undertake a clinical examination of the issues plaguing the courts and understand where intervention is required and the level of intervention that is required. The government of Jamaica, and in particular the Ministry of Justice, renews the commitment to provide the necessary resources to the court system.
For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
And when we come back, we'll tell you what's behind the Palace Amusement stock's dramatic increase. This and more after the break. Welcome back. Palace Amusement Company Limited has received a major boost in revenues and profits since the opening of the movie Black Panther. Just last month, the company's stock price more than doubled its previous value. But the question on everyone's mind now is how long will this kind of movement last? Equity trader at JMMB Clive Charlton says Black Panther had a huge impact on Palace Amusement's trading on the stock market. He says the revenue inflow has bolstered investor confidence in the stock.
What we do know that a new movie was recently released, perhaps about 3 weeks ago, and apparently it has taken the entire movie-going community by storm. And I believe that that might have been the push among investors. I think that is a consideration that a few investors have used to move the price up.
But Mr. Charlton says he doesn't expect the stock value to increase for much longer. He says there are already signs that the market is correcting itself.
I believe that as the fervor, as the excitement of this movie wanes down, I believe that the investors the potential buyers will ease off on their bids, and chances are we may see a softening of the stock price over the short term.
The JMMB equity trader says he doesn't expect any other movie in the short term to disrupt Palace Amusement's trading the way Black Panther has done. He says the movie Black Panther is a unique phenomenon.
Will we be seeing similar type movies over the near to longer term impacting this company? I'm not sure. You see, this move is kind of unusual. Of course, the Avenger series, it is already out in the marketplace. That the new Avenger movie is expected out in perhaps a couple of months, and it has done well globally, particularly in the United States. I'm not sure if it has had that impact on the domestic market as the most recent Black Panther movie.
In the meantime, Mr. Charlton is making it clear that most of the benefit now will go to the principals of the company who hold majority shares. He says the public only has access to about 20% of the shares in the company.
The stock is tightly held. It's only 1.4 million shares are outstanding, as opposed to, for example, an NCB that has over 4 billion, a GMB that has over 1.8 billion shares. So the stock is tightly held by a few persons. Of this amount, 1.4 million shares outstanding, about 75% is held by the principal shareholders. So even a smaller amount is free floating. You know, and as a matter of fact, I believe that even perhaps less than 80% or 85% is really floating out there in the marketplace.
Before the release of Black Panther, Palace Amusement stocks traded at roughly $560 for 200 units. But just today, the stocks traded for just a little over $1,200, which is still $100 more than yesterday's closing price. For BATV News, I'm Andrew Laidley. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, Favour Williams, says fiscal discipline must be maintained for the country to move forward. She said that as a government, sustainable growth can be influenced through policy continuity in areas that are benefiting the people and through fiscal discipline. The minister was speaking at the annual Students' Conference of the University of Technology School of Business Administration held at the Jamaica Conference Center recently. Minister Williams said the upcoming fiscal year demands that wages and salaries be no more than 9% of GDP by March 31, 2019. She said that this spending rule will help to contain the wage bill so that it's predictable. The minister pointed out that in order to continue the fiscal discipline and eventually realize economic growth, the 7% primary surplus as well as the 9% wage to GDP ratio must be achieved. She challenged the students to contribute to Jamaica's growth by being more productive in the workplace, by starting a small business, and by generating new ideas and acting on them. The minister added that growth will also be achieved through empowerment, efficiency, more productivity, innovation, and consistency. Minister of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries Audley Shaw is encouraging Jamaicans to invest more in coconut farming, as there are opportunities to earn from the product. Speaking at the 32nd Annual St. Mary Agricultural Show at Grays Inn Sports Complex on Monday, Minister Shaw said local manufacturers who depend on coconuts are going to other nations for raw materials as the local supply is below the demand. He cited Grace Kennedy, which was to import coconut raw material because the company cannot get enough in Jamaica. Mr. Shaw said the government is taking action to change this situation by rationalizing a number of agencies, including the Cocoa Board, the Coffee Board, and the Coconut Board into one, where there will be a focus on how to increase the production of these products. He said there has to be a discussion about how to transform Jamaica into a major coconut producing country once again. The St. Mary Agricultural Show was held under the theme Climate Smart Agriculture, the key to food security. The event is hosted annually to bring farmers from the parish of St. Mary, neighboring parishes, and other stakeholders together, where ideas for innovation are shared, along with the introduction of new technology. The government hopes to free up about $3 million worth of fiscal space through more vibrant horticulture practices on the island. Horticulture is the science and art of growing plants. According to Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett, horticulture practices will be integrated into the Tourism Linkages Network. Minister Bartlett says he's had discussions with Chairman of the Tourism Linkages Council, Adam Stewart. He says the Linkages Network needs to have the horticultural societies represented at the next meeting of the Council to represent the floral attributes and the floral cultural assets of Jamaica. Minister Bartlett says the nearly $3 million spent on importing flowers from Costa Rica and other countries last year should be going into the pockets of farmers and horticulturalists across Jamaica. Minister Bartlett was giving the keynote address at the official opening of the 56th staging of the St. Elizabeth Horticultural Society's annual flower show at Independence Park. And when we come back, the US-China trade war heats up. This and more in regional and international news. Up next. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. It's time now for regional and international news. China is retaliating with new tariffs on U.S. goods as trade tensions continue to escalate. It is imposing tariffs of 25% on over 100 types of U.S. products, including soybeans, cars, alcohol, and tobacco. Those products were worth $50 billion last year. The Commerce Ministry also says it's taking a case to the World Trade Organization. Al Jazeera's Adrian Brown reports from Beijing.
It's 40 years since China began to open its economy to the world, encouraged ironically by the United States. As a result, their brands were among the first to benefit. Now, Chinese government officials are warning that 4 decades of cooperation is being recklessly endangered. On Wednesday, they responded with carefully targeted countermeasures that'll hurt a wide range of industries.
The Tariff Ruling Committee of the State Council decided to impose a 25% tariff on 106 types of products in 14 different categories, including soybeans, cars, and chemicals made in America.
No mention, though, of aviation, but on the Commerce Ministry website it says aircraft between 15 and 45 tons will be subject to the 25% levy. A Boeing 737-800 falls into that category. Soybean sales to China are worth $14 billion a year. General Motors sells more cars here than in the United States. Earlier this week, China announced tariffs on a more modest $3 billion worth of Chinese imports, including nuts, fruit, wine and pork. That was a response to new levies on Chinese steel and aluminium.
This is not the smoke before the fire. This is the real fire, the real trade war. The war is ongoing. You don't necessarily need to impose the tariff or ban imports to start a trade war.
The latest US tariffs apply to industries at the heart of a trade strategy called Made in China 2025, part of President Xi Jinping's aim to turn China into an advanced manufacturing economy. In doing so, China's been challenging the big US tech giants who accuse China of stealing and replicating their technology. US business executives complain that the price of doing business in China means they have to partner first with a local company. They say that puts them at an unfair disadvantage because they're required to hand over sensitive know-how. Know-how that the Chinese side gets to keep even if the venture goes sour.
We have a problem with China.
That's what President Trump means when he accuses China of stealing intellectual property. He doesn't have to sign off on the latest tariffs for 60 days. That leaves time for negotiation, but not much. Adrian Brown, Al Jazeera, Beijing.
Trinidad and Tobago has moved one step closer to removing the 1-cent coin from its monetary system. CNews' Sandra Maraw has the details.
The Gazette notice posted on March 29th said the bank shall call in all 1-cent coins issued by the bank for the purpose of withdrawing from circulation. It noted that from the 3rd of July 2018, all 1-cent pieces shall cease to be legal tender. There is no need to panic, however, as the bank says it will indefinitely redeem the coins at face value for cash if you choose to have them brought in at a commercial bank or at one of its offices. It should also be noted that when you're returning your coins, they should be sorted in multiples of 5. Back in January, the central bank announced it would stop making 1-cent coins. The central bank said a single 1-cent coin currently costs 21 cents to mint, and each year the bank mints on average 45 million 1-cent coin pieces. The move to eliminate 1-cent coins is expected to save government an estimated $15 million in minting costs yearly. Meanwhile, vendors and consumers alike are being urged to use the rounding off system when conducting transactions, with vendors being warned that consumers are not obligated to pay or make change for a rounded off cost that is higher than the original amount payable. With regard to online payments, there is no need to round off payments since it does not apply. The central bank is warning that anyone who seeks to contravene any of the regulations regarding rounding off or use of the 1-cent coin pieces will be liable to a summary conviction for a fine of $500. The bank is advising both consumers and vendors to work together with the rounding off system until the coins are completely removed from the public. Sandra Maraj, C News.
The Indonesian port city of Balikpapan on the island of Borneo has declared a state of emergency after an oil spill spread along the coast, killing 5 fishermen when the oil caught fire. Balikpapan is the home to one of Indonesia's largest oil refineries, but the country's state energy company Pertamina has denied the spill was a result of its operations. Al Jazeera's Steph Vason reports from Jakarta.
Oil polluting the bay of the city of Balikpapan and several nearby villages. The spill has spread over an area of around 12 square kilometers. Residents have complained of a strong smell of fuel in the area. Hundreds have reported health issues such as nausea and vomiting. Police have warned against lighting fires. On Saturday, shortly after the spill was first noticed, a fire broke out in the water near a Chinese cargo ship. 5 fishermen who were in a small boat in the bay at the time died. Balikpapan is home to one of Indonesia's largest oil refineries, but the country's state energy company, Pertamina, has denied the leak comes from its underwater pipelines.
We have formed a special team to investigate this. A team from Surabaya has arrived to take samples of the oil and other places so we can find what caused the spill.
Fishermen held a protest at the mayor's office demanding compensation. The spill stopped them from earning a living. Their boats have been damaged and they can't reach their fishing grounds. Almost 200 fishermen are affected. The impact of the pollution on marine life still needs to be investigated. Residents are working with emergency services to get rid of the oil.
Environmentalists are urging police to speed up the investigation and bring those responsible for the spill to justice. They also want the government to act fast to clean up the oil and limit damage to the environment. Step Vason, Al Jazeera, Jakarta.
Talking Stocks is after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Time now for Talking Stocks. 46 stocks traded today, of which 18 advanced, 21 declined, and 7 traded firm. The main JC index declined by 383 points to close at 295,372 points. The junior index advanced by 10 points to close at 2,966. 3.9 million units traded, valued at over $48 million on the Jamaican dollar market. And on the US dollar market, over 510,000 units traded, amounting to over 102,000 US dollars. Lasca distributors, with over 793,000 units changing hands, accounted for 19% of the market volume. Victoria Mutual Investment was second with 771,188 units trading, and Carreras with over 298,000 units trading, accounting for 7% of market volume, crossing the floor. Jamaican Teas was the top advancer, up 50 cents to close at $5.28, followed by Palace Amusement Company up at $104.90 to close at $1,204.90, and Caribbean Cement Company up $2.45 to close at $38.50. The main decliners were G West Corporation losing 18 cents to close at $3.10, followed by Fosrich losing 10 cents to close at $2.42, and Mayberry Investments down 23 cents to close at $5.91. In foreign exchange trading, the Jamaican dollar lost ground on the British pound today, but gained on the US and Canadian dollars. The US dollar ended the day selling for $125.56, losing 5 cents to the Jamaican dollar. The Canadian dollar sold for $97.79, losing 23 cents, while the British pound closed the day at $176.06, gaining $1.12 on the Jamaican dollar. And that's the news, but before we go, a recap of our top story. Government and opposition issued joint statement saying today's resumption of Vale Royal talks was fruitful. Thanks for watching. For more content, please visit our website at batvja.com. I'm Andrew Laidley. Pleasant viewing.